It's rolling whenever you're ready.
It's Dave DeWeese? Dave DeWeese. All right, we got to get a shout out. Thanks again, Dave. Let's get this episode going on. We have to recognize. We must recognize. Welcome to SandCity Sports. I am your host, the Cape Cod Kid, artist formerly known as Andre King, and we are back again to bring you all the sports and current events news stories that you need to know. Folks, I want to wish you a happy Veterans Day, and it being Veterans Day, we have to give a very special shout out to Dave DeWeese here at the Cape Cod Media Center for helping us to get this episode up and rolling. So very appreciative of that, and equally, we are all, of course, very appreciative of our veterans who stand guard. What's the word I'm looking for? I'm reminded of West Point. You know, they call West Point the long gray line. And, you know, it's one thing to sit on these shows and talk the talk, but as we all know, it's our veterans that are out there in the real world walking the walk so that we can have a very privileged lifestyle that we have. So thank you. That being said, of course, it being a football Monday and a sports Monday, plenty to get to, and we will start in the NFL with the Sunday night game between the Dallas Cowboys and the Minnesota Vikings. Plenty of eyes there. Crucial NFC matchup that included all the fixings, and of course the Vikings came out on top 28-24. But I want to push back. Cowboys, America's team. Fan base that is, what's the adjective that I'm looking for? Rabid is what I wanted to say, but Cowboys fans are notable for their enthusiasm. But there's a lot of talk today about getting rid of Jason Garrett, about who's to blame for this loss. Folks, listen, this was an outstanding game. Two good teams. You know, and look, we play these ball games. Somebody has to lose. And so first and foremost, I think the hand-wringing Monday morning quarterbacking, a lot of the agitation, aggravation directed at Jason Garrett. Now look, there was that Cowboys were in the red zone. Garrett decided to run the ball twice, then pass it to Ezekiel Elliott on a screen. That would have, if they would have scored a touchdown on that drive, it would obviously put the Cowboys ahead. And so I can understand the outcry in relation to that. But as I'm watching this game, Kirk Cousins is out there getting the job done, making plays. Dak Prescott getting the job done again, making plays, showing that he's deserving, of that $30 million contract. He had an outstanding game. And it just came down to, the Vikings, were just that much better. Now, look, clearly not a football guy, and so these takes, honestly, not outstanding. Now, I'll be the first to say they don't have a great background in the sport, and if we were to look at this game from an analytical standpoint, or if you had football people, and listening to the conversations, I'm certainly missing a lot. All that I am trying to get across, in this introductory story is, look. Just make sure I'm, doing all right here. Your quick, quick checkup. I'm running behind. Running behind today. Running behind per usual. And again, I got to thank the people here at the Cape Cod Media Center because this production, in no way, shape, or form, would have gotten off the ground, or just because of that. All right. Point taken. All I want to say is this: look, Cowboys' schedule is much more difficult than the Eagles. They are now not the favorites, frankly, to win the NFC East. Yet they balled. That was a great game. It wasn't a one-sided performance. And the Vikings, they just happened, to cross the finish line first. But, I was impressed with the Cowboys. First and foremost, Dak Prescott, Amari Cooper balled out. Need to see a little bit more from Ezekiel Elliott. But, even though, they are, kind of, not in the inside lane, use a NASCAR reference, they could still go ahead and get that NFC East Championship, make the playoffs, get into the second season, and make a tremendous amount of noise. So hats off to both the Vikings and the Cowboys. We have an outstanding game kicking off right now. We will get that information, in the E&E, the editing and effects, as this show goes out between the Seahawks and the San Francisco 49ers. Two, again, heavyweights in the NFC. And we're going to see, again, heavyweights to crown. San Francisco undefeated. The Seahawks having MVP favorite, MVP candidate Russell Wilson. Two, you have the veteran coaching with the Seahawks and Pete Carroll and what he's done over the years. Kyle Shanahan, frankly, new on the scene. A lot of question marks surrounding his name, and he has really gotten rid of the majority of those and stood tall and served notice that he belongs in the NFL coaching fraternity in quite a big way, with that team being undefeated and in the conversation, for the Super Bowl and possibly a championship. And so, once again, we will have that information in this show, but as the game is going on right now, we can't say anything for certain, clearly. Anything else that we need to really touch on? The Patriots didn't play, so that's a narrative and a storyline. It's a little bit on ice. Yes, there is some more to talk about, and where I'm going. The next story that must be addressed in the NFL. I did not forget. When Superman goes flying across the sky, how can you that escape your memory? Okay, and of course I'm talking about Lamar Jackson, the perfect QBR for the second time, 2 times in one season. I do not care if these 2 perfect QBR performances and all-world, historic outings for this man occurred against 2 abysmal franchises. Yesterday, Cincinnati Bengals' first game of the year against the Miami Dolphins. That is secondary, all right? I can't say performance again. I've already said stand tall. I'm at a loss for words because, listen, the narrative surrounding Lamar Jackson now and the narrative surrounding Lamar Jackson at the end of last year, throughout the summer, and going into this year, night and day. All right? Everyone needs to remember that. All of this praise, adulation, MVP this, Heisman Trophy that, very few people, if anyone, outside of Lamar Jackson and his inner circle, felt that way for the last however many months, 8, 9, 10, 11, whatever the case may be, okay? So we have to remember that. Now, when you're wrong, you're wrong. When you're right, you're right. What he's doing, he deserves to be in the MVP conversation, and a number of apologies from people like myself who doubted him. Facts. Along with that, John Harbaugh, that coaching staff, that organization, you can see when you have a talented individual, who nonetheless has things to work on, things to improve upon, but is willing to work, to do what it takes to be successful. When you put those 2 things together, never mind being competitive, making your fan base proud, representing yourself in a positive and encouraging fashion, but the artistry, the stunning display of creativity, athleticism, innovation, and on and on and on. That's possible, and that we saw yesterday. You put 2 and 2 together, and who knows, what the results could be. And I think that's the Baltimore Ravens story in large part, in large regard, because again, you got a 6th-round pick, University of Michigan. Maybe he'll be a backup. Probably not going to be in the NFL after 5 years. His kid, Tom Brady, we're very unsure of him. We already have a $100 million quarterback, this guy, Drew Brees, number 1 overall pick. And so, maybe he can collect a couple years' salary in the NFL, set himself up, but we don't see a bright future for him going forward. 20 years later, 6 Super Bowl victories, 9 Super Bowl appearances, and you see what somebody who's not necessarily the most talented, but has talent and is willing to trust the process. Shout out to Brett Brown, is willing to do his job. I think that's a more appropriate reference, with Mr. Bill Belichick. And what do you have? So credit once again and again and again. Lamar Jackson's, the Ravens, they are very much in the Super Bowl and championship conversation. Didn't have a game here in Titletown. And okay, so those are storylines and narratives. We got a couple things that we need to get to, so I don't want to, sometimes I go on and on. It takes me a little while to get going, and I forget that, being behind, I can't be here. I can only be here for a certain amount of time. But New England Patriots, their next couple games, they're going on the road to Philly. That could be another L. They got the Cowboys in Foxborough. Great game, two proud franchises. That could also be another L because the Cowboys are going to be in full-blown desperation mode. That game means much more to the Cowboys than it will mean to the Patriots. They got to go on the road to see Deshaun Watson in Houston. Very tough game. And then Patty Mahomes is coming to Foxborough. Very exciting time for just right here in New England. These are going to be outstanding games. And in the NFL, the eyes of the NFL will be dead center on the Patriots. And we are going to see. Started off the schedule very weak. Now you're going right into the thick of things. And in conclusion, another great game we're going to reference here in terms of what the Tennessee Titans did against the Kansas City Chiefs yesterday. I'm out of control today. I'm kicking things. What's going on here? All right, apologize, folks. Nonetheless, fact of the matter is the Titans showed themselves and represented themselves well. The Kansas City Chiefs, they're in big trouble. Defense is atrocious, abysmal, egregious, and on and on and on. That is not a team that I see making the AFC Championship game if things don't change. Period. End of story. I don't care how great their offense is. And so, back to the Patriots. If they don't put things in order, which they're more than capable of doing, they could find themselves in the very same situation that those Kansas City Chiefs are in. Point of fact, Chiefs are 5-4. That's right. They're 5-4. Patriots, I know, 7-1. You know what? They could end up close to 500 with this upcoming schedule. All right. Starting to get into a groove here, and rightfully so, because again, time is of the essence. Got a couple things that are really I'm glad I have the chance to talk about. We talked about some pro stuff, great. We need to talk about what's going on in college sports because I'm frankly furious, enraged, losing it in terms of what transpired going into last weekend, the cowardice that I saw from the NCAA in terms of how they've handled these two situations. And, of course, I'm talking about Chase Young, Heisman Trophy candidate at Ohio State, defensive end, somebody who will be going certainly in the top 3, if not number 1 overall in next year's NFL draft, and James Wiseman, Memphis Tigers on the basketball side, somebody who I believe will be the number 1 overall pick in next year's NBA draft. And this these two eligibility crises that have, again, because of how the NCAA handled it, and because this is a football Monday, the storyline has been frankly pushed aside, brushed back for the time being, and that again goes, to I already used the word cowardice. I can't think of another. Maybe it'll come to me. It's just weak, and underhanded. I won't even say shrewd because that has positive connotations. There's nothing positive about how the NCAA has handled these situations, particularly James Wiseman, and releasing this story on Friday, late Friday afternoon, going into Friday evening, so it really couldn't be picked up. That's a time when you want to get some news out there, but you don't want to have any analysis, examination, and building on the story. That's when you just kind of dump stories. That's what the NCAA did, in large part because they know they don't have legs to stand on. All right. Folks, it's been discussed. Listen, and hypocrisy is the word. college sports, this is a multi-billion-dollar. Guys, this is like the equivalent. College sports, they're really the equivalent of a casino. Just talking, a couple buddies of mine got a chance to go to Encore in Boston. Outstanding casino facility, so on and forth. Didn't realize that it's right there in the heart of Boston. I was there, shout out to my good friend Derek Thompson, allowed me to go to the UFC event in Boston, which was outstanding. So a couple dear friends, we got together, some of the guys, and then, afterwards, let's go. I'd never been there, check it out. I was taken aback. You cross the Zakin Bridge, or, you go to TD Garden, right before you cross the Zakin Bridge, right, Encore is right there. Right? So if you need to get there, 1, 2, 3, and, outstanding, so on and forth. Where am I going with this? What the heck does this have to do with college football? Here's where I'm going with this, people. College sports is the equivalent of a casino that pays no taxes. That just keeps all the money. That's what college sports is. Facts. All right, we've been debating about having a casino in Massachusetts for since I got back, in the early 2000s from college, 04, 05. Wampanoag tribe here on the Cape, at that point in time was the front runner. Steve Wynn, in Las Vegas, casino owner, innovator, so on and forth. Ended up getting it done some years later. Again, this is almost 2020, so it's at least 15 years. And I'm sure this conversation was going on. So 20 plus years we've been talking about casino in Massachusetts. Okay, finally got it done. Tip my hat to the people in Everett, and they're doing a great job. Wonderful. Okay, again, back to college sports. Now imagine if this casino, Encore, paid no taxes. And the taxpayers were the ones that had to build the whole facility, which sometimes takes place, in pro sports, and shout out to the Golden State Warriors and the new Chase Center, that they didn't do that. The business interests who have plenty of money and will make plenty of money, off the facility, that's how they built that. College sports, that's what it is. Just taking, period. And they really keep it all, the overall majority of it. Chase Young, you're talking about an $11,000 loan. $11,000. Again, billions of dollars coming in terms of college sports writ large. And then for his university, and I've made this comparison, I go back to Cam Newton and the, frankly, witch hunt that he was subjected to. When he won the Heisman and led Auburn to a national championship, and that cloud hung over that entire season and completely marred the entire experience. We're talking about $180,000. I will confidently state that the national championship that one Cam Newton delivered for Auburn, who hasn't been heard from since he left, who was down 21-0 in Tuscaloosa against Alabama, brought them all the way back. A nip and tuck game against Oregon in the national championship game, which he led them to victory in. Okay, that national championship will and has and will continue to provide at least $100 million. I stand firmly by that number for Auburn University in terms of the television contract that they were able, within the SEC, to mint based on having a national champion in your conference. The memorabilia, okay? The television, all of the royalties that go along with that national championship, which was dependent on Cam Newton. And I'm supposed to care about $180,000 when you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars based on his labor power? The only crimes that take place in college athletics are the severely, it's not even, we're not even going to use historic references, in terms of, the term slavery will not be applied here as far as I'm concerned, okay? Because it just, no. When we're talking about the distinctions between generations coming from a history background. No. We live in the most technologically, Americans and our country, we still have plenty to work on. This is the richest nation in the history of the world. Okay, Rome, for all of its power and splendor and might, okay, in the ancient world, having running water in the ancient world, which they didn't have in medieval Europe, which is a large reason why the bubonic plague began and spread. Don't even get me started. Okay? This modern day Roman Empire and the amount of creature comforts that we enjoy, it's just unimaginable in the scope of history. So no, there's going to be no references to slavery, when we talk about college athletics. Nonetheless, in terms of economic crimes, felonies, just criminal behavior and activity, I can't think. These scholarships, if somebody it just doesn't amount. What would the scholarship be if it's a state school? A lot of these are state schools. I've said this, and I know I'm going on this subject, and I don't really care. Okay, because look, the president of Clemson University, which is a state school in the beautiful land of South Carolina, makes just over $900,000 a year to be the president of a university that does tremendous good in that state and in the region more generally. $900,000, almost $1 million. That's a good salary. Dabo Swinney, the football coach, makes $9.3 million a year. 10 times plus what the president of the university owns. And you want to talk to me about amateurism and about student athletes? Look, NCAA, what you need to do concerning Chase Young, again, Heisman Trophy candidate, bringing in tens of millions of dollars to his university, okay, and to the overall enterprise in general. James Wiseman, same thing on the basketball side. These are 2 number 1 overall picks. Okay, you're not going to apologize. Fine. You should apologize, but you're not going to apologize. Fine. We need to end this charade. The level of, this is worse or almost worse. I don't even know if that's a good statement. That's not a good statement. That's not good English. This is almost as bad as prohibition. And the amount of resources just absolutely wasted. You have the NCAA devoting time and energy looking for, $1,000 here or $10,000. The numbers in both of these cases, they don't even rise above $20,000. These loans. James Wiseman to help his family move. Chase Young, received a loan and paid it back. And we're talking about a $1 billion industry. Okay? Shame on you. Shame. Okay? Game of Thrones level shame on the NCAA. Okay, over to the world of hoops, which I do know a little bit about. Not a great amount, but stated. And before we go to the NBA, shout out to Drew Pops, okay, commentator on this show. He's at the Celtics game tonight. The Mavs are in town. Great matchup. 2 up-and-coming teams. Luka Doncic, Crispy P in the building. Boston at the top of the East, balling, blue-collar, hard hat, team-first mentality. We've been excited about it. It's coming to fruition, and so great matchup. We're looking for Gordon Hayward to get back healthy. Just the luck. I mean, unfortunately, this was not a catastrophic injury, as he has suffered before, but backside screen, and he fractured, his hand to a certain extent, had surgery today, and so I'm hopeful that he will be back by New Year's. It wasn't, for, one of these, where you're falling or so on and forth, or a high speed. It was just he turned, and these screens. It wasn't even anybody's fault. He's his hand kind of got caught. Marcus Aldridge. Someone's like you running these screens. He's backside screens like a stone wall. But I'm hopeful that he'll be back by New Year's. It is unfortunate because the Celtics were absolutely positively cooking. But we have the scoring they have. And I don't want to say we. I'm not like Drew Potts. I'm not a lifelong Celtics fan. I follow, I was a Bulls fan under the leadership of Tom Thibodeau. That was, and they got rid of a good man, and then Minnesota got rid of a good man. And so now I tend to pull for the Kings, De'Aaron Fox, Marvin Bagley, guys are on my fantasy team. So I'm not going to act like I'm, one of these, diehard green teamers. But I've been pulling for this team, and was advocating for them to get rid of, Mr. Irving and send him along, because he was not leading the way he should have been. And so pumped. And I think they're going to be able to maintain. They have the scoring, obviously, with Kemba, Jalen, and Tatum, and Kanter can score. And I think there's an opportunity for the young guys. Grant Williams, Edwards, Langford, hopefully he gets, able to get back. I think they can, be a good opportunity for them to step in. They can maintain Celtics, stay at the top of the East. And when Hayward gets back, this is a team that can compete to win the entire conference and put themselves in a position, to make a run at the NBA championship. Yes, indeed. And so looking for those things to occur going forward, and first and foremost at the time being for Mr. Hayward to get back healthy. Now, staying in the Atlantic Division, I gotta check quick, can't get too, beggars can't be choosers. And today I'm certainly a beggar, coming in here late, and relying on the charity. So I don't want to get too far, but we got a couple more topics that we can get to. Look, NBA, it's been outstanding. What the Lakers have been showing, shout out to LeBron. The man's a multi-national conglomerate in terms of his business interests, well on his way to being a billionaire, and he gives back in his community, the community. He's generous and philanthropic, like a Bill Gates and a Warren Buffett. So we respect that, 100,000, million%. Okay, but how he has responded to the critics, myself among them, after that dud, first game of the year against the Clippers, the Lakers, for real. The West, for real. That's already been noted, so I'm not going to go down that road again. Over in the Eastern Conference, what's happening in what some say the greatest city in the world. Obviously, it's debatable. I tend to, coming from the tri-state area, being born in the great state of New Jersey, I do love, the Big Apple. And I do appreciate, history guy, the Knicks, and the tradition. Yes, 70, 73, those championships, that still means something to me. When we talk about, Clyde, the Glide, the first Clyde, the Glide, that's Frazier. When we talk about, Earl the Pearl, Monroe coming from Philly. When we talk about Willis Reed. When we talk about Dave DeBusschere. When we talk about Bill Bradley, Red Holzman as a coach, that means something to me. Okay, when the Garden was Eden, outstanding 30 for 30. Okay, but the fact of the matter is, this Knicks organization, James Dolan, and now Steve Mills, what happened yesterday and going into today, and what it means, again, for this city. Financial, economic, that's the same thing. Financial and economics is the same thing. I apologize, people. New York is a financial and political capital of the world. Wall Street, United Nations, as well as a media capital. It is a center of so much. And the sports, they mean something. The Yankees, yes. The Giants, also the Jets. Sorry to the Giants fans after that loss yesterday. And the Knicks. It means a tremendous amount. And for Steve Mills and this organization to conduct themselves how they have. I know I'm coming to my conclusion, so we'll just power through. It's just egregious. Listen, the team is 2-8, terrible start. There are systemic issues. Let me back off that. For some reason, Fizdale, who's a good coach, David Fizdale, good coach, Pat Riley, Eric Spoelstra's tradition, he's not connecting with these young guys. Dennis Smith Jr., who is their future, has only played 3 games. He is separated from the team for personal reasons. He's only playing 9 minutes a game. That's unacceptable. Kevin Knox, also the future, playing less than 25 minutes a game, coming off the bench. Unacceptable. Top 10 pick here, guys. Mitchell Robinson, all right, their center of the future, playing less than 20 minutes a game. Fizdale, your rotation is garbage. 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 All right? That said, respect to his background and his ability. He's not getting through to these young players. That is a significant problem. I believe, given time, and he can get over that problem. But by the Knicks organization going public in the number one media market in the country and possibly the world, and adding fuel to the flames that already exist with them being 2-8 in the Eastern Conference. That is simply poor management, poor organizational strength, efficiency, whatever you want to call it. And starting off, this show talking about the Baltimore Ravens and what can be done when you put 2 and 2 together. Now we are on the absolute other side of the spectrum with the New York Knicks. And it is shameful for a proud, historic franchise to be conducting themselves like this, making rookie mistakes that a first-time fantasy owner would not make. There is no reason for them to go public this early in the season and with their checkered past, which excludes them from getting top-flight free agents like Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. Like Joey Knish said, the outstanding film rounders, you did it to yourself. They keep going on like this. NBA might need to step in, okay? NBA stepped in some years ago with Philadelphia and hired Jerry Colangelo, a basketball luminary, as a special consultant because of how that franchise, that historic and great franchise, was being run. And Jerry and Brian Colangelo, I don't care what happened with his Twitter account, set the foundation for this team that's a favorite to go to the NBA Finals. NBA might need to do the same thing with the New York Knicks. It's gotten to that point. All right? Happy Veterans Day. Respect to those who have served to create the freedoms and the life that we enjoy. Folks, that's going to do it. Go ahead and comment, like, and subscribe as you feel the need. I am your host, the Cape Cod Kid, artist formerly known as Andre King. We want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts for tuning in to SandCity Sports, and we will see you here back again the next time. That's going to do it. Do.